we did the first episode and the last two, as you said, and then the first two of the new season, which for us, we also had some other directors that came in that directed the other 6 episodes of season 1. But for us, we essentially did 5 episodes in a row.
Yeah.
And so we felt a bit possessive about Daredevil. We really want to make sure we get it right and want to make sure it's done right. But what's really interesting is we then got to watch and supervise to a degree the episodes coming out. And it's funny, for us, they just got better and better. Because there's always that worry, right? Is like you hand off your kid to another parent and you just don't know how it's going to go. We got to kind of experience Daredevil Born Again for the first time as viewers and as just viewers in a way. Just got actually engaged in the story rather than problem solving and just watching the season get better and better and better. It's like, oh, this was perfect. This worked perfectly.
What? What are you talking about?
Daredevil Born Again Season 2 was so bad, it made me want to return to YouTube. Hello, it's been a while. Believe it or not, I've had 3 separate videos that I chose to scrap in favor of making this one, which the show obviously deserves considering the material we've been given. Good God, this show refuses to respect even the most basic continuity. So I took it upon myself to make this video, not to just give the rightful criticism the show deserves, but to prove that the overhaul was never the biggest reason the show was so bad, and it was instead the misunderstanding of the characters and themes. Before we begin, let's set some ground rules for how I review media on this channel, shall we? No, I don't care if the show is comic accurate and or has references to said comics. Comic books are not a flawless medium, so I will not be praising a show simply for adapting elements from them. And secondly, I do not care how well the show performed in terms of viewership or IMDb scores. Not like you'd even have a point if you brought up viewership anyways, but regardless, numbers are not representative of something's quality. Just because a majority of people like something does not mean it's above being criticized, especially when you are as broken as Born Again is. If you like the show, then that's fine, but if your response to criticism is that it's comic accurate or the majority liked it, and therefore what I bring up in this video doesn't matter, I'm going to laugh at you. No, I will not accept the defense that my standards are too high and I need to stop comparing it to the Netflix show. Kevin Feige should have thought of that before being indecisive and making it a follow-up to Season 3. If you're going to make a continuation, it is completely fair to accept a similar amount of quality. What happened behind the scenes is not a get-out-of-jail-free card just because the writers had no choice for Season 1, and it's especially not for Season 2, which has the same problems. Just to be clear, this video will be mainly focusing on the characters, since not only do I not have the willpower to do everything plot-related, but I also want to get this video out fairly quickly. And considering this is Born Again's biggest problem, it'll still demonstrate what it needs to, being that this show doesn't at all understand what made the Netflix show so great. And that's really why I'm making this video. One of the biggest reasons I watched this season was to see if they demonstrated any level of improvement, since they didn't have the burden of connecting it to a separate continuity. But with the release of this season, it only reaffirmed the fact that they don't understand these characters and how to send them on meaningful arcs. They don't know how to have good thematic elements that don't completely contradict what the Netflix show told us. And more importantly, they do not care to improve the show by listening to the criticisms given. Anywho, let's begin with episode 1. We begin with Matt fighting Fisk's men on a boat with the goal of exposing him, I guess, but already I have a lot of questions. Firstly, why not wait until the boat reaches where it's going before taking action? There could be more illegal content there that could be used in your favor. Why go onto the boat with no countermeasures? Secondly, why not bring Jessica on this mission? The only reason the boat actually sinks is, well, other than the plot needing the evidence destroyed so the season doesn't end in one episode, is because the captain was able to initiate it. If Jessica was here, you can account for this way easier. Actually, on second thought, you don't even need Jessica to do this. Why the fuck did he not take out the captain before going onto the ship? There are security cameras. What if he calls for backup? What if he sinks the ship like he literally does in the scene? The setup for this is already contrived. We proceed with a shot of Matt getting out the water and smiling, which obviously isn't in character considering men just died because of his reckless plan. Then Matt and Karen have a chat and no She-Hulk, no Luke Cage, no Iron Fist, no Wong, and no Avengers. Just Jessica Jones and Matt. The army that Matt talked about at the end of Season 1 consists of 3 people. How wonderful. No Hawkeye either, despite his show making it clear that he has video footage of Fisk committing crimes and made it clear he wasn't gonna stop going after him.
Well, that's the guy I've been worried about this whole time. Kingpin. I'm not going anywhere until this is finished.
I would like to hold off on criticizing the show for not explaining where the Punisher is, since they showed him escaping in the Season 1 finale, but considering the track record for this show and the fact that I can't see it being in character for Frank to not go after Fisk, I'm gonna have to criticize that too. I mean, it's not like their last interaction had Frank making it clear that the next time they meet, only one would come out alive.
Next time I see you, only one of us walks away.
It's not like the people working for Fisk beat him and locked him up in the Born Again Season 1 finale along with using his logo to commit crimes. Not to mention, why didn't Frank report the location of where he was being held to Matt? It's been 6 months and all he needs to do is send a text. He'd obviously care considering a lot of them are probably innocent. If they weren't, then I don't know why he didn't kill them. No, I am not accepting the point that this is a Daredevil show and therefore I want a cameo fest for questioning these things. I want an explanation for why they aren't here and why Matt hasn't tried to change that. They wrote themselves into a corner by making Fisk the mayor and canonizing this to the MCU, but that isn't an in-universe justification for the events happening the way they do. I don't care about your out-of-universe explanations. We then get Matt and Karen discussing Fisk and how he continues to gain power in the city, which now makes Matt look like a moron considering he had a silver bullet against Fisk in Season 3 which still didn't work. So what is the moral dilemma about if putting him away has proven to not work no matter what the evidence actually is? If no matter what you do, you'll always fall back into old habits, which is what the show keeps trying to tell me, then what is the point? Where are the stakes if he can just Looney Tunes his way out of conflict whenever the writers want another Fisk story? Which, not to mention, not only makes the Punisher right, but it means Matt was wrong for not killing him, which completely betrays the themes of Season 3. I mean, it's not like Season 1 didn't do that already. I'm just choosing to highlight it now since I didn't cover it in full. Then we get a really funny scene where a task force agent gets insulted, which provokes him to punch someone in public.
Menos fascistas.
Which doesn't make sense. The whole point of what Fisk is doing is making them enjoy working for him since he allows them to be corrupt with no consequences. But you cannot then tell me he's okay with them assaulting people in public, which would obviously spread. This reflects really badly on him and would not be taken lightly, especially if he's willing to almost fire someone because they did something by accident. Fisk is very cautious with his reputation, especially in the Netflix show. He used Dex as a scapegoat in Season 3 because of how people were reacting to him being released. He was strategic in what moves he made. This is just plain stupid. Then we get this really confusing scene between Karen and BB. Now remember, BB is a big part of why Fisk was elected in Season 1, so I have to ask, why exactly is Karen on good terms with her when she helped the mob boss they sacrificed many people to put away get into arguably the most powerful position he could be in? If you want to argue that it was explained off screen, not only is that extremely lazy writing to not even explain how one of your main characters discovered a connection with another one, but there is no possible explanation to justify her stupid plan. So no matter how you twist the organs of this script, we end up with something stupid. The task force knocks on Cherry's door for information about why he was looking for Greek sailors, which I don't know how they found out about, which then gives him the opportunity to text Matt, who then shows up to kick the shit out of them. Oh, they nerfed him by giving him a convenient PTSD attack which never showed up previously. It didn't even happen after Season 3 when Father Lantom died right in front of him. If you want to argue Foggy is more important, then sure, I don't really care. But you cannot argue this relates to his PTSD as if he's power scaling in his head which one is more important. And yes, he shouldn't be down for the count after 3 hits to the head which is covered by his bulletproof armor. Especially when he took way more hits than that with an inferior suit, which is funny since they didn't even have to do this the way they did. They could have easily had Matt beat them and nothing about the season changes. So good job, show, for creating a problem out of thin air. And that was episode 1. Wow, that was absolutely awful. But don't worry, the season only gets worse from here. The next episode starts with Dex going to the same church he went to in season 3 to kill Karen, apparently looking for Maggie. And that's weird. I guess Fisk never thought to install cameras or wiretaps at the place that both Karen and Matt used to hide from him 2 seasons ago. That's quite stupid, because if he did, he could have caught Dex right here and ambushed him. The same Fisk that increased his security after Matt got into his penthouse in season 3 didn't think to take this very basic precaution in case one of them revisits a place they are known to have used in the past. Not only that, Maggie also isn't here after 6 months despite Fisk not only being out of prison, but the fucking mayor. You know, the guy that was known to push Matt to his limits regarding the no-kill rule and almost had him cross that line. It's not like she had a whole speech she gave to Karen in season 3 about how she abandoned her child and lives with that guilt every day, along with taking up Father Lantum's role as Matt's guidance when things get rough. Now you may be asking, why the fuck is Dex here in the first place? Oh goody, let me tell you, he wants to be good, because, and I quote, "I need absolution. I've betrayed people, betrayed myself." Jesse, what the fuck are you talking about? Why would Dex at all want to be good? This reasoning is so vague that you are literally forced to headcanon one since the show refuses to explain this sudden change. I've seen certain people try to say that it's because things went poorly for him when he was being his true self. That would be sufficient motivation for him to change his mind and want a North Star again, this time being Matt, which just doesn't work at all. Firstly, things went poorly for him in season 3. He was literally put in the loony bin and became paralyzed, needing surgery to be able to walk again. But despite this, he still took up Vanessa's offer to kill Foggy and went out of his way to murder innocent people that wasn't required for his quote-unquote freedom. Not like he had to kill anyone at all to get free. I'm just running with what the show is telling me. But secondly, why would he want to adopt Matt as his North Star of all people? Matt literally tried to kill him, and we know Dex to be a petty individual. He literally killed Coach Bradley because he didn't let him do what he wanted, and felt no remorse for it afterwards.
I wasn't sad.
Why not, do you think?
He was a jerk. Never let me do what I wanted.
Also, why in the fuck does he even think one good deed will even out all of the murders he's committed across the past 2 seasons? I understand that he's obviously not mentally sane, but there still has to be some sort of self-rationalization that makes it logical in Dex's head, since every person obviously operates on their own type of internal logic, even if it's not completely rational in reality. With everything that I've just laid out, you're not going to convince me that this works for his character. Fisk is told about how Matt escaped because of Dex's interference in the last episode, and stupidly kills a guy because apparently he has no self-control, which we'll continue to see later in the season. No, Patrick, I'm not accepting the defense that he's emotional sometimes and killed a guy with a car door over him interrupting his date. That is not at all the same as killing a random guy because you got told Daredevil escaped. Karen literally had to continuously mock his best friend and how she killed him, and even then, he still had significant restraint.
James Wesley. What was it like for you when he disappeared? Really, it's those first 24 hours that are the worst, aren't they? When you call, and then you call, and you call, and you call, and there's just no answer. Rage at him. Because you thought he betrayed you. Because I wonder what would be worse for you, his duplicity or his death. He died quickly. If you were wondering, didn't suffer much. I killed Wesley. I shot him 7 times. Because the clip ran out. He deserved more.
Fisk is calculated, not a fucking idiot. We then get a scene of Matt and Karen following right after Dex saved him.
But he doesn't want me dead.
I don't give a shit. He killed Foggy. Those task force psychos put a bullet in his head.
Karen, that's not helpful.
I imagine you feel the same.
Dex then somehow gets inside the hospital and kills 2 agents, along with somehow getting Cherry out without anyone noticing. I don't think I have to explain why this is contrived, considering there's cameras and the task force would be patrolling the area to make sure nothing happens. Anyway, we now get a scene of Fisk catching Daniel, since he knew about the videos mocking Fisk and decided not to report it to him. Fisk obviously proceeds to threaten him, reminding him about how he told him what would happen if he decided to betray him again. Which I now have to ask, why the fuck fuck is he still working for Fisk after this interaction? This is the second time that Daniel withheld information from him, lying by omission, and Fisk doesn't care. He literally considered firing the guy who kept Vanessa safe for years.
It was, yes, what's unclear to me is how you failed to kill him! Daredevil. If you would like my resignation, I understand. You protected her. 2 years. You kept Vanessa safe when I couldn't.
But he's gonna keep a random guy who continues to cause issues for him. Now we get quite a strange decision for Matt, being to bring Karen to the shipment to gather information, which is obviously an unnecessary risk that he doesn't need to take, considering he has many other alternatives that don't require endangering her. He could use a camera to record, he could bring Jessica, or he could just go himself, considering he'd be able to identify more than she would with his enhanced senses. They also decided to come here during the day, which is more risky than going during the night, for obvious reasons.
It will be remembered. Will it? New Yorkers have a short memory.
Thank you for the lampshading, show. Still doesn't fix that Fisk becoming mayor makes no fucking sense. Anywho, we now get a repeat of the task force abusing their power, which is an issue considering what I laid out earlier. However, I think I should address a defense that I've heard for this, being that this would attract vigilantes, which is exactly what Fisk wants. Which no, I'm not fucking accepting that he's gonna paint the task force as shitty law enforcement just for a chance to catch vigilantes, for 2 reasons. 1, this would still negatively impact his reputation and potentially turn the city against him if people start to realize that he clearly isn't taking action. And 2, what exactly is his plan if Spider-Man, Hawkeye, She-Hulk, Luke Cage, or any other well-known vigilantes or Avengers decide to get involved? His futile task force of 20 guys with guns are not doing anything to fucking Doctor Strange. Dex has a clear shot on Vanessa, decides not to take it for supposedly no reason. Skipping near the end of the episode, the task force shows up to Josie's bar to ambush Matt and Karen. And already I have a few questions. Did the task force know they were here? Because there's a couple scenarios. Scenario A, they were simply searching the area by going building to building with the sonar device, which would be fucking stupid considering Josie's would be one of the first places they check, and they lose the element of surprise since Matt could hear them. Why didn't he, by the way? So how they didn't check Josie's for 6 months when Fisk and Vanessa would know this is a place they are known to go is beyond me. So Matt goes out to save Josie first for some reason, instead of fighting the ones that are about to search the bar and potentially find Karen, which immediately confuses me when Josie wasn't in any immediate danger. I mean, it's not like they were gonna shoot her, and if they were, it'd be stupid to do that considering she could have valuable information. He also wasted time going up to the roof instead of just going out the front entrance, which if he was going to do that, I don't know why he didn't guide Karen up there with him to keep her safer, since the roof would likely be the last place they check. I also thought the implication of this shot was that the sonar device messes with his hearing, but when he jumps off the roof, he seems to take care of them with no problem, so don't know what the deal is there. This guy also conveniently doesn't have his gun drawn despite every other agent we see having one out constantly, allowing Karen to get the jump on him. And finally, the episode ends with Karen showing Matt that she's kidnapped one of the task force agents. I know what happened in the last episode, show. Stop treating me like a toddler by playing a scene that was literally at the end of the previous episode. I don't care that these episodes were released a week apart. It's still stupid when you're watching them back to back, which the show should have accounted for.
What is going on?
This is how we end it.
My kidnapping task force.
What if it works?
Yes, Matt, this isn't out of the ordinary for you or Karen. Karen literally helped you interrogate Jasper Evans. Why are you all of a sudden on the fence about this?
You're lying. You're a liar. You are lying to us.
How about checking his heartbeat, Matt? Yes, I know that the line of dialogue that comes seconds later confirms that he did so.
Nice, he's telling the truth.
But for some reason, the scene seems to communicate that he has to accuse the guy of lying to actually confirm if he is, which obviously isn't how his powers work.
Did you keep the file, Karen?
The IT guys, they came and they wiped the computers. Believe me, part of me wishes I'd made a copy for myself, but I guess I'm just not that smart.
Who do you work for? City of New York. I'm gonna ask you again.
Think about your answer. Who do you work for?
City of New York. I got 2 months on the job.
Right, why don't you let me know when you want to breathe?
Fisk's woman. The feds will drop all charges against her. No. I swear, he's doing it all for her.
So continuing to yell at the guy and accuse him of lying just makes Matt look like he's being unnecessarily threatening and stupid.
Why would you work for Fisk? Because he's genuinely trying to make the city a safer place.
Is he now? It's not like Heather should know he took credit for Muse's defeat when she would know firsthand that it was her and Matt. It's not like we have his task force regularly being corrupt in public. It's not like we have Nadeem's video where he outs Fisk for a laundry list of crimes.
I was on the other end of that vigilante violence. You weren't.
Oh, so the show is still pretending that Muse is a vigilante since they can't do basic research on what words mean. Wonderful. That's definitely a sign of dedication and effort instead of laziness. Matt goes to talk with Kirsten and get information as to where she was brought, which he doesn't even need to do since he had an officer he could have asked about that. But no, let's take the keycard he gave me but not ask him where I can use it or locate it. But since she was blindfolded, all she could tell him was that she heard pigeons, water, and wind. Yes, pigeons. The birds that are fucking everywhere in New York and constantly move around. Along with basic sounds you'd find everywhere throughout the city, somehow end up leading him straight to the prison where Frank was at the end of season 1. And all it takes is a single keycard to get in, not multiple, not a specific person who's in charge of opening and closing the door, no cameras or alarm systems to tell when someone is in the perimeter, just one keycard, which I guess is given to every agent. That or Karen got astronomically lucky that the one guy in charge of the keycard happens to be the one she knocked out. Both are fucking stupid, so pick your poison. Not to mention, did they not question the fact that the guy had no keycard when Matt released him? Did they not take precautions in case Daredevil got a hold of it? That's pretty stupid. Anyway, what precedes is a fight of Matt breaking them all out, followed by Angela finding Karen, which she then admits to stealing some of their comms, which I have no fucking idea how she did that, but whatever. Don't question it. Matt and Karen finally meet up, and
You killed them. You killed them now.
Now before we move on to episode 4, I'd like to take a brief intermission to say that if you thought the season was bad already, this is where everything goes completely off the rails, and not in a good way. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because people on Twitter, like well-known creator HiTop Films, who saw the season early, were all saying that episode 4 is where the season ascends into a love letter to the original series.
Born Again Season 2 starts off feeling very much like the solid episodes of Born Again, which to me lacked all the soul that made the Netflix show so special. It's doing so much legwork to desterilize the world, add back authentic grit and texture to the supporting characters that were purely exposition machines in season 1, so certain moments and beats feel off. The first few episodes had me scared that this series would continue to feel like damage control for bad boardroom choices. But once you hit the midway point, it completely evolves and morphs into not just a love letter to the original series, but a new beast entirely thanks to the great Lord and Savior Kevin Feige, allowing the world and the characters to not just be stale imitations with too many limitations, but to be truly born again. The back half had me smiling ear to ear. Expect a vague, mostly non-spoiler video sometime in April, as long as I'm done sucking off Kevin Feige.
And I'm here to tell you that they all could not have been more wrong about the quality of the show going forward. It got to a point where even one of my friends that was actually being quite defensive of season 2 couldn't defend the episodes that followed.
The only people I'm more angry at right now than the writers of this fuck-ass show are the people who told me the show locks in after episode 3. I thought the first 3 were alright, and so I sat there anticipating for the peak I was sure to be in store for. And when I tell you what unfolds next is some of the worst shit I have ever seen. I believed in this show despite hating season 1, and this is what I get? Count me out for season 3.
Yeah, that's how bad it gets. So prepare yourself for some of the worst episodes of TV I've ever had the displeasure of watching. The next episode begins with Dex cooking in an apartment, before then leaving as an old woman calls him Tony. How he stole the identity of a random guy and has been living here for how long again? This guy tried to assassinate the mayor. His face would be everywhere from posters to the news. How is he walking around and going to public places without being recognized? Where did he get the money to afford both an apartment and food? If you're going to tell me that we never see his face on posters, and therefore it's believable that he somehow been going unnoticed for so long,
That's stupid.
Dex then enters a diner and orders a milkshake before calling the police and lying about seeing Frank Castle. The task force shows up shortly after, asking everyone to put their hands up. Dex obviously doesn't do this, which makes them point their guns at him and repeat it. The show wants me to believe that this one guy didn't recognize him until he turned his head, but the visibility would be almost the same, so seems quite contrived if you ask me. He then spits out a part of his milkshake, which somehow has enough force to drop the guy onto the ground and cause blood to spurt everywhere as if it was an actual gun. Sure, I believe you, show. This totally didn't happen just so he wouldn't have been shot in the head immediately. He then gets up, puts on his mask, and the task force just sits there watching him. Not like they were previously established to be very trigger happy both in this season and in the previous one. He then stops to have a chat with this random guy, and the agent conveniently waits until he's done with his speech to try getting away. We then see Dex waste time making a bullseye logo on the door with ketchup instead of getting out of the area quickly, when he'd obviously know backup would be arriving soon due to all the innocent people that just witnessed what happened.
SD card. I'm supposed to get it to my source, but with task force everywhere, I'm too exposed.
It's okay. Let me do it.
Absolutely not.
Come on. No, come on. I just need to do this for my aunt, please.
No way, it's too dangerous.
So what? I stole their truck. They're probably already looking for me.
What the fuck are you doing, Karen? Don't think you're off the hook for this too, Matt. Her getting lucky by stealing something already does not mean you should let her go on this dangerous mission. Her being on the radar is even more reason for you to make sure she doesn't get put in a potentially dangerous situation. This wouldn't and shouldn't convince either of them. We cut back to Matt investigating what Dex did at the diner, disguised as a task force agent. Matt picks up the coin and apparently recognizes that it came from the church, so he goes there. Quite stupid of you, Matt, for the reasons we went over previously, but whatever. Dex arrived at his apartment from an undisclosed location, which makes me ask again how he wasn't recognized, which now leads us to the fact that this plan to lure Matt makes no fucking sense. He couldn't have accounted for Matt stealing a task force outfit and searching the area himself. He couldn't have accounted for Matt's senses leading him to the church, and he couldn't have accounted for the guy telling him the information he did, especially because he was hesitant to do so in the scene. If Matt failed to convince him, then he never finds Dex at all, which is funny because he didn't have to do this contrived plan at all when he could have at the end of episode 1. If you're going to tell me this wasn't planned and all of these things just ended up happening like they did because Dex randomly wanted to take out some agents 6 months after the events of season 1.
Stupid.
Dex holds a gun onto the lady from earlier and explains to Matt that he, and I quote, had to get his freedom back. Oh, so the show is still pretending that he had to kill Foggy in order to receive his freedom, when he has to be freed to kill Foggy in the first place. Obviously, he wouldn't be bound to kill Foggy because of the contract when that couldn't be included due to it being an illegal job.
Good deed. What is it you want to do? What you wouldn't do.
So why do you want his help, you stupid fuck? If you know he'd try to stop you and be nothing but a hindrance to your plan, then why have you been so insistent on him helping you, you fucking fuck? I've seen people try to compare this to season 3, where Matt similarly turned Dex against Fisk by revealing he killed Julie, but what this is ignoring is that Matt had no other choice. He knew he couldn't beat Dex and Fisk at the same time, so he had to make it so they were all fighting each other. This isn't the same as as Born Again, where Dex is fully capable of taking on Fisk alone. Matt would only try to stop the outcome he's trying to get.
Fisk. I can't let you make a martyr out of him.
Oh, so it's not about preserving his morality because in his mind, killing Fisk would destroy who he is. It's instead that killing Fisk would make him a martyr.
Go fuck yourself.
Born Again.
Dex wouldn't want to help Matt for reasons I went over earlier, but let's go over this scene that follows. Matt then chases Dex outside through the front, instead of simply jumping out the window and breaking the fall with his bully clubs, and Dex takes off with the motorcycle, which is somehow enough for Matt to lose him when he can traverse from building to building. So in the meantime, let's talk about this plan Fisk has to lure Dex and Matt and then kill them. Firstly, why is this what Fisk chooses as his trap of choice? Since this is a very public event, there's already way more to keep track of than if you were to do something more discreet. It's also stupid to have a trap with the intention of catching both of them at once, when that would obviously mean there's more variables for things to go wrong, making the outcome harder to control. What if Matt stops you from shooting Dex? Oh wait, this is what happens in the scene. This also doesn't make much sense on the front of luring Daredevil. The reason they give is that it's where Matt's father used to box and therefore Matt would show up, which is probably the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Just because this is a place he knows about and went to as a child does not at all mean that he'd show up to this public event that he's a wanted man at. Why not kidnap someone Matt cares about? On the other hand, the security for this event clearly isn't good if Vanessa was able to just waltz in unnoticed.
We have men on rooftops, subways, every entrance and exit.
Inside's covered too. We have task force in plain clothes and uniforms lugging serious firepower, so nothing's getting in.
Which I don't think I have to remind you, Fisk wouldn't let happen since he expects both Dex and Daredevil to appear. So either she knew it was a trap and came anyway, which I don't consider to be at all in character for her since she knows this guy can contend with Daredevil in combat, and I haven't been given a reasonable explanation for why she would think she can take on a trained marksman who even she acknowledges to be the best at this very thing.
You are the very best at this type of thing.
Or she didn't know it was a trap because Fisk never told her, which I also find out of character in its own number of ways. Vanessa is most important to Fisk. You're not convincing me that he didn't tell her about this, especially because their earlier conversation implies that she would know the dangers of this event.
This is not that. It's a public place. Too much could go wrong.
Which also just adds to the idea that this is a bad trap if too much could go wrong, Fisk, but I won't harp on this for too long. The event proceeds as Fisk intended before we get a shot of Vanessa sitting down in the crowd. Fisk then gets angry and punches the guy hard enough to knock out a tooth, which obviously shocks the audience. Skipping past the fact that Fisk was unnecessarily brutal in the public eye, security had more than 20 seconds to escort Vanessa out of the area. What the fuck were they doing? And that's being generous and cutting off time to account for the stupid slow-mo that happens. Also, how the fuck did no one notice Dex before he killed this one guard? There's security everywhere, and I think it's fair to assume there's cameras. I'm assuming they wouldn't let anyone in that isn't allowed, and it's not like Dex has a history of being stealthy, nor does he blend in. Not to mention, I don't even believe that he was able to sneak in at all. Season 3 already made the point that something like this is near impossible.
God, Karen, I had him. I just gave up my one shot to come here to save you. I was in his penthouse, waiting for him. It was it. It was the moment.
He controls all of the FBI agents who are guarding him. The hotel is a fortress.
I know.
You'll never get to it.
And that the only reason Dex was able to do so was because he had the element of surprise and knew the security protocols.
How did this happen? Dex knows our security protocols.
Now you're telling me he was able to sneak in unnoticed despite the purpose of this event being to catch him? Also, why in the fuck did he decide to waste his surprise attack on a random guard instead of instantly throwing a knife through her heart or head? Vanessa stupidly starts going towards him with a gun, because for some reason she thinks she can take on the trained assassin. No, this is not in character for her. Dex throws whatever the fuck this glass thing is, and Fisk deflects it in an attempt to save Vanessa. And as he's about to shoot Dex, Matt finally shows up. Quite convenient. Or I guess I should say the opposite, because somehow Dex was able to get there and sneak in before Matt even intercepted him. And this isn't even accounting for the possibility that someone recognizes him and calls the police or task force, which tends to happen when you're traversing with a stolen vehicle in broad daylight while dressed as a known assassin. He then uses his bully clubs to swing Dex out the window before they fall onto the ground. Dex then somehow gets up before Matt does, despite Matt being the one in bullet-resistant armor, while Dex clearly doesn't have that advantage. We then cut back to Fisk and see that the shard actually hit her in the head, despite Fisk's efforts to prevent it, which I actually think is pretty cool in concept. But since this is Born Again we're talking about, I felt absolutely nothing. Maybe I would care if this was the Netflix show, which knew how to give meaningful send-offs to beloved characters. This is just contrived and idiotic. Let's cover the worst episode now, shall we? Vanessa is taken to the hospital and Fisk is already acting out of character. Why is he trying to interfere with the doctors when all they are trying to do is save her life? Don't tell me that he's emotional, because he went through a similar situation in season 1. However, there you can see much more restraint and emotional control.
I'm coming with her.
Sorry, we can't have you in there, sir.
Don't you know who I am?
Doesn't matter. Fill out the paperwork. We'll update you on her condition as soon as we know anything.
He doesn't even want to interfere in the scene I just played. He just wants to be in the room. That's clearly different than the Born Again clip. If you want to argue that it's been years and they are married and obviously closer, I'm sorry. This doesn't justify why he's being obviously stupid when he knew this would get in the way. Being emotional is not a get out of jail free card for making stupid decisions. If anything, that would make him urgent to get her help, since any interference could cause her death.
Watch out! No!
You cannot be.
What do you mean what's happening, you idiot? They're obviously trying to save her life. How about letting them do their job? She's literally having to physically restrain him because he's not cooperating. We cut back to Matt and Dex, who he's trying to get medical supplies for, which already raises the question of how they got away from the task force. Matt and Dex are on foot while Dex was just shot and looks like he can barely walk in the scene. You are not convincing me that they somehow avoided the task force long enough to get to wherever this is. BB shows up to the hospital, which I have to question how, since the building would have task force swarming it. Not only that, but how exactly are they keeping the hospital that Vanessa was brought to a secret, when it's obvious she would be brought to the closest one because of her injury? The scene I was talking about earlier also acknowledges this.
This is a rat hole. It was the closest ER.
But back to Dex.
I'm bleeding out. I've seen it enough times to know.
I'm not interested in your opinion.
I've earned this many times over. It's okay.
Well, it's been less than 5 minutes and there's already another issue. We've already established that it makes no fucking sense for him to want redemption, but now he's for some reason okay with dying. You don't know if Vanessa is dead, Dex.
I think she's dead.
And you definitely know that Fisk isn't dead, considering you were tackled outside before you could take a shot. You haven't completed your one good deed yet. Why are you okay with kicking the bucket?
If she is, it all balances.
No, it doesn't, Dex. Fisk is still alive. This is particularly funny since Fisk is the one who actually wronged him in Season 3. He only wanted to kill Vanessa to hurt Fisk. We then get the first flashback portion with Matt and Foggy, which shows them going to talk to a guy named Ray, since they were retained to represent him by Fisk, which is clearly supposed to take place before the events of Season 1, which already makes no fucking sense. The Netflix show made it a point that Karen was their first client. This was made explicitly clear in dialogue.
Our practice is relatively young, Miss Page, and we are aggressively pursuing new clientele.
How long have you been practicing law?
What time is it?
It's 12:22 a.m.
About 7 hours.
You've never done this before?
If you were to hire us, then yes, you would be our first client.
I've seen people try to cope about this and say that Karen was their first client after they created Nelson and Murdoch, but this is fucking stupid. If this was the case, then Matt wouldn't have said it this way. He would have clarified to Karen that they had done this before. So yeah, this is another example of the show failing to keep basic continuity. Also, if Matt and Foggy had worked for Fisk multiple times, why didn't Fisk bring that up in Season 3 to the FBI? If he did, Nadeem would have corrected her when she said they only took on one case.
When did the firm first start working for Wilson Fisk?
We never worked for Wilson Fisk.
Is that your signature? Do you remember depositing this retainer check for a company called CGI.
Yes, I do. Matt and Foggy took on one case for them, that's all. Matt and Foggy took on one case for them, that's all.
Yeah, that's definitely a case of me just not knowing what to do with the script.
Come to think of it, I have a friend who runs an art gallery. The art world. Pretension. And airs of posing as something meaningful.
This exchange completely breaks what we came to know about these characters in the Netflix show. Fisk does not think art is meaningless. The reason he met Vanessa in the first place was because he decided to go look at art to decorate his penthouse.
He's indisposed.
With what?
Art. Paintings. His penthouse is finally ready.
You're shitting me. Everything's spinning out of whack and he's decorating.
The situation is under control, Leland.
A big part of the Netflix show is literally them bonding over this art piece, so to act like he thought of art as meaningless makes no sense. On top of this, to act like Wesley and Vanessa were friends fucks with the continuity of the Netflix show. And yes, he was talking about Vanessa when he said this, since she is the one that runs the art gallery. If they were actually friends, why didn't Wesley say anything when their first date went poorly? Why didn't he vouch for Fisk? Wesley's death was literally caused by him doing something to help Fisk without being told or ordered to. He kept it a secret on purpose to not worry Fisk. Why wasn't Wesley the one to arrange their second date instead of a random guy? Vanessa was poisoned in episode 11 of season 1, and Wesley is a very casual reaction. This doesn't look like the emotional response of someone who's worried about their friend's life. And the cherry on top of this shit cake,
You'll be all right. Thank you. He's worried about you. Your friend.
oh, she explicitly refers to Wesley as Fisk's friend instead of theirs. Almost like this show doesn't care about keeping continuity with the Netflix show. This leads into a scene where they discover a legal loophole that would allow Ray to be freed, since the address that they used to access his apartment was inaccurate. In other words, the paper is a
get out of jail free card,
which causes an argument between them on whether or not they should use it.
Dark Lord of Unspoken Kink, Levine, made it sound like we're not only off the case, but our badges might not work on Monday.
I want to do the right thing.
I don't know, Foggy. I don't know. You sell drugs, you traffic in firearms, you get caught, I'm sorry. There are consequences.
His crew, whoever he was working with, they're gonna kill him when he's inside.
Yeah, that might be the definition of consequences.
Okay, or you can hit that. Yeah. I don't know. All right. Hey. Yeah. Relax.
Fuck you. Matt would never say this. He wouldn't let a man die because that's the consequence he deserves. He couldn't even bring himself to kill his father's murderer in the season 2 flashbacks when being persuaded to by Elektra. And this was way more personal to him than a fucking drug dealer. This was literally the guy that changed the trajectory of his entire life. He also took the Punisher case explicitly because he didn't want Frank to be given the death penalty. And who was the one that offered pushback on that? Oh, it was Foggy. And what Ray did is fucking nothing in comparison to Frank. May I remind you, his morals would be influenced by his Catholic beliefs. And no, I'm also not accepting that it makes sense simply because Matt wants to keep his job, like the badge line implies. He wouldn't value his job over the ethics of letting someone die, especially when he was the one to influence starting their own firm so they could actually help people. I will also not accept the defense I've heard, being that he wants the law to work and is not at a good place with it. Because firstly, if Ray dies in prison, that isn't the law working. The law failed to punish him for what he did and give him a chance at redemption. I'm also not buying that anyway, considering how laughable it is that he'd let a guy possibly die simply because he wants the law to work, as if the law doesn't work on a daily basis and his job isn't ensuring that. On top of this, not only is that not conveyed in the episode himself, what Foggy said was not a counter to that line of reasoning. Matt wants the law to work, and therefore is fine with not showing mercy to a guy that committed crimes, and Foggy's response to that is to tell him to show mercy to a guy committing crimes. This is also just flipping the dynamic from the Netflix show, where it was Foggy that cared more about money than doing what was morally right.
Well, I don't have any money.
Well, it was lovely to meet you, Miss Page.
So again, like I laid out with the Punisher example, for it to be Foggy that influences this change does not make any sense. Anywho, now that I finished absolutely destroying that flashback, let's get back to Matt and Dex, who are now in the church.
We should be safe here for now.
No, you're not, Matt. This is definitely a place Fisk would check. Again, he knows this is a place you and Karen used to hide before. And Matt isn't even attempting to treat Dex's bullet wound either. He wasn't treated earlier because Matt heard the task force outside. So why isn't he trying to keep Dex alive and conscious? There's literally a guy in the church that could assist him with this. What the fuck is he doing?
You know what happens if she dies?
Fisk turns the city upside down and shakes it until he finds us and kills us.
Me. Kills me.
Us. I was there. And that is more than enough for Fisk.
He's already trying to do that, Matt. He has 1,000 reasons to kill you already. Vanessa dying, something you were trying to prevent, by the way, is not changing anything.
Nurses, doctors, lawyers, vigilantes, assassins. Killing people, saving people, act like it makes a difference. Like it matters at all.
Jesse, what the fuck are you talking about? I thought the entire reason you've been trying to kill Vanessa is to level the scales again and make up for what you did. Why are you now claiming that what you and Matt are doing doesn't actually make a difference?
If she is, it all balances. Your friend, Fisk's wife, scales, settled. Act like it makes a difference. Like it matters at all. Your friend, Fisk's wife, scales, settled. Act like it makes a difference. Like it matters at all. Scales, settled. Act like it makes a difference.
The task force then shows up, who would have fucking guessed, and Matt and Dex are in a predicament now, aren't they? How are they gonna get out of this when Dex can barely walk and they are about to search the building? Oh, I don't know. Maybe use the secret room that Matt and Karen did in Season 3 in a near identical situation? Surely that's what he's gonna do, right? Well, not only do we have him refusing to use a very easy get-out-of-jail-free card to hide from the task force, but we also have him making a very out-of-character decision to leave Dex. Did you guys fucking forget that you had Matt take a bullet for Fisk less than 1 season ago? And Dex isn't nearly as bad as him. Not only that, but the show wants me to believe that he can't take on the task force by himself when he literally did so earlier in the season. The reason it was a problem in Season 3 of the Netflix show was because Dex could already contend with him in combat and had beat him before. None of the task force have been shown to be capable of that. Matt gets out of the building, even though I assume there'd be agents on every exit to make sure no one slips out, and before he leaves, he flashes back to Foggy, remembering how he was taught to show mercy, even to bad people, and instead of letting Dex die, decides to go save him. Which still makes no fucking sense since there was nothing to influence him changing his mind on showing mercy to Dex. Remember how the Netflix show had very specific circumstances that made him reconsider his no-kill rule, being that Fisk was out of prison and in a very powerful position again? Nah, let's just give Matt a shitty arc that was never treated with any consistency or care. What also doesn't make sense is this shot where Dex takes Matt's hand. I thought he wanted to die. Why did he all of a sudden change his mind? Again, there was nothing to influence this shift. I also think it's funny how they had a much better version of this in the trailer where it wasn't overbearingly bright, but deliberately went out of their way to change it into a far worse one. And remind me again, how exactly did they get to Frank's lair? Again, Season 3 of the Netflix show made it a point that you can't just get out of the building unnoticed. And if you could, then Matt and Karen would have just done that in Season 3. And that was without a crippled Dex that would be uncooperative considering he's suicidal in the next episode. The show then proceeds to repeat a scene that we already got in the Netflix show.
Maybe, instead of Murdoch and Nelson, maybe it's Nelson and Murdoch.
I like that.
Yeah? I bumped you up.
I love that.
You're going up in the world, buddy.
I am going up in the world.
Murdoch and Nelson, attorneys at law.
Nelson and Murdoch. Sounds better. You think?
Yeah, trust me.
I am not accepting the defense that friends sometimes forget and repeat conversations. Because 1, that means the scene we got was useless and a complete waste of time, and 2, this was an important conversation to Foggy that he'd remember, no matter how small. Matt suggesting the change in name was meaningful to him. Vanessa dies and the episode ends. The next one begins with Fisk mourning Vanessa and killing a doctor, which I don't even know if I buy, considering this guy had nothing to do with Vanessa's death. Again, Fisk in Season 3 had much more restraint. I also don't know how he covered this up when there's cameras and the doctor's last known patient was Vanessa, but whatever. We then get a scene of Vanessa's funeral, we didn't get one for Foggy by the way, followed by a scene of Jessica and her child. However, there's an obvious problem with this scene, being that her child should be dead. The bomb that she's carrying around takes almost 20 seconds to actually explode. Were they planning on bombing a fucking grandmother?
I pay every day for what I did to Wesley. I still have fucking nightmares.
Oh, the show is now gonna pretend as if Karen didn't conquer the guilt of what she did in Season 3. We then cut to people protesting against Fisk, saying that Vanessa was, and I quote, part of the problem, which confuses the fuck out of me considering they elected him. What exactly influenced them to change their mind and dislike him? Could it be a case of the writers not knowing what to do with the season? It can't be the anonymous videos that BB has been making because this isn't from a trusted source at all, making it already less believable. And 2, these are all just claims with no evidence since she's getting it from Daniel. Remember in Season 3 when a trusted FBI agent exposed Fisk for federal crimes? Remember how Born Again Season 1 pretended that didn't matter since he was able to gain the public support anyway? We then get a scene between Matt and Jess where they plan to break into a warehouse owned by Fisk, which they decide to go in without any plan, instead of opting for stealth, when Jess just told him that her powers aren't working as well as they used to, nor is she bulletproof. They didn't even bring a fucking camera to gather evidence that could be used against him. They also could have knocked out an agent and interrogated him for information. But no, let's just go in, cause trouble, and achieve absolutely nothing.
Good job.
This fight is also really stupid since the task force decides to go in close on Jessica when they have guns and she's obviously more dangerous at close range. So, Karen points the gun at Dex with the intention of killing him, while the show spoon feeds us flashbacks of Foggy, and just before she can, Matt prevents it. However, I obviously don't see this as a problem since it's in character for Matt, nor is it even wrong. I'm only bringing this up though because there were idiots on Twitter trying to say that it was shitty for Matt to throw his bully clubs, which is fucking stupid. Matt didn't know how close she was to pulling the trigger, so he made a split-second decision which was the safest one to make. People also tried using this scene to ship Karen and Frank, saying that Frank would never do what Matt did, which I don't really care if you ship them, but to pretend like Frank would be okay with Karen killing is outright obtuse, and disregarding a mountain of context from the Netflix show. Also, like I said before, Dex is for some reason okay with dying despite episode 5 giving us the implication that he changed his mind, since he willingly took Matt's hand.
How can you say that?
Because it's true. Because you let them live and people die. Please just let me do this.
What?
No, this is not something Karen would ever say. I was accepting of it for Fisk, considering if he continues getting acquitted to bullshit reasoning, I don't know what else Karen is supposed to think. However, I don't think she should want to kill Dex, considering Dex is not at all the same as Fisk. Dex has not been able to manipulate the system to regain status and power the way Fisk has, nor is this her mindset in the Netflix show.
Has to be done, Karen.
I killed my brother. Because I was high, and I was drunk, and I was angry, and I shouldn't have been driving, and it changed everything, but no matter what I do, there is no atoning for that, okay? There's no way to come back from it. Killing anyone, even Fisk, it will change everything that you feel about yourself.
It'll be Josie's all over again. You go in there, you will die, or you will kill.
Yes, Karen had her doubts about not killing in the Netflix show, which is why we have scenes where she says Frank's method of vigilantism works, even if it's wrong. But the important part is that she moved past accepting killing in Season 3. She was a catalyst in Matt changing his mind on making the exception, after Foggy convinced her that they would lose him.
Karen,
Look, I'm not saying that I want him to kill Fisk. I don't want that. What if it's the only way?
Matt's Matt because he believes that everyone deserves a shot at redemption.
Except Fisk.
Everyone. If he crosses that line, Matt will never be able to forgive himself. And being around us will just remind him of who he was and what he's done.
Yeah, we'd really lose him, wouldn't we?
Also, I don't think the point of her thinking she's gonna carry it for him even works, since if he walks out that door and lets her kill Dex, he'd be complicit, which is just as bad. That would be Karen losing Matt forever this time. Karen then goes to the rally to broadcast a video exposing Fisk, which for some reason she decides to go there with Angela. Nor did she even bring Jessica with her when this would be the perfect situation to have her as a precaution in case something goes wrong. Matt shows up to Fisk, trying to make a deal.
You leave New York. I leave New York.
Which has to be the dumbest plan I've ever heard. Fisk can still commit crimes in another city, and he'd have enough connections by this point to potentially regain power in said city. We then get an admittedly pretty well-shot fight between Matt and Fisk, and the fight comes to a close with Matt walking away. As for what's happening in the city, this idiot agent shoots one of his co-workers behind a van in front of everyone. No, I'm not buying this makes sense for reasons we went over earlier, but this is even worse considering this is cold-blooded murder. If you're trying to make it seem as if Daredevil is the bad guy and you are all just doing your jobs trying to catch him, why continue to validate their protesting against Fisk instead of trying to de-escalate? This would be what Fisk wants, and he would make sure the task force knows this. They'd also just want to do it out of fear considering they know what he's capable of. And if you want to argue that this one agent is just really stupid, I'd then ask why he didn't instantly shoot Karen upon pointing his gun at her later on. And what exactly is the reason for Karen sticking around after she put up the projector? Her objective should be to get out of there as soon as possible since she's already wanted. She could have just slipped away in the crowd, but decided to stick around like an idiot. The next episode starts with Karen being put into a cell, which is even more confusing considering if he didn't want to shoot her there, he could have done it in a private area shortly after. You know, like an off-the-books warehouse instead of a public prison, which would only make her location more accessible, so I don't know why a bullet isn't in her brain. Which again, I don't know why he suddenly decided he wants conversation, considering he immediately decided to send Dex after Karen, clearly without orders to bring her back alive. If he did, then he would have told Dex this in the scene.
Just as I want you to kill Karen Page.
Oh yeah, he says kill, not capture. Dex also attempts to kill Karen right here. The only reason it failed was because Lansom got in front of her, which he couldn't have possibly predicted. So yeah, I don't know where this sudden change has come from. Karen then goes close to Fisk, allowing him to choke her when he's obviously very dangerous at close range. Apparently, she has a death wish. Fisk decides not to kill her right here despite the fact that he already had his little chat. Yes, I know the show wants me to believe it's because he wants to lure Matt, but that's unnecessary when there are other ways to do that and he can just kill her right here. Now we get a scene of Jessica interrogating the guy that sent the agents to her house in the previous episode, to which he responds,
Also, I'm not really sure you can anymore because the little birdie said your powers ain't what they used to be.
Oh, how do you know that? This is private knowledge as far as I'm concerned, which is why Jessica had to inform Matt of it in the previous episode. And there's no way any of the task force that they fought knew about it, considering the only indicator was this one punch that isn't nearly enough evidence to come to the conclusion that her powers are being inconsistent.
Fisk puts one of his puppets in the governor's office. New York is his.
Well, riddle me this, Mudrock. If Fisk could do that this whole time, why exactly has he not done it yet? Fisk is supposed to be smart, so yes, I'm gonna say it's fair for him to consider this. Also, no, this does not make New York his anyway. If the governor is killed by Fisk, this would get higher positions in the government involved. Like, I don't know, the fucking president, the Avengers, She-Hulk, Spider-Man, or many other heroes that operate in New York.
They booked her legit. Prints, photo, phone call, the works. They're fast-tracking her to vigilante court.
Wait. Hold on. So not only has he not killed her yet, he's fast-tracking her to vigilante court instead of just luring Matt and then killing them both.
For what?
Oh my fucking god, man, whatever. Hopefully the next part of this makes sense.
You go in there and bust her out, you are the criminal he says you are.
She's not safe there.
If he was gonna hurt her, he'd have done it already.
No, Cherry, that isn't how that works. Fisk could be waiting until nighttime. They could be interrogating her for information. There are a number of possible reasons for why they didn't kill her yet. This logic is flawed, and Matt shouldn't trust it. And we now get an awful scene between Matt and Dex.
You wanted one good deed, right? I got it for you. Now go, disappear, die, I don't care.
I thought you needed Dex to carry out this one good deed. So do you want his help or not? Also, no, Matt would never fucking say this. He is not apathetic to lives being taken.
Matt's Matt because he believes that everyone deserves a shot at redemption.
Now go, disappear, die, I don't care.
Matt's Matt because he believes that everyone deserves a shot at redemption.
Now go, disappear, die, I don't care.
Matt's Matt because he believes that everyone deserves a shot at redemption.
Now go, disappear, die, I don't care.
Nor does it make sense for Matt to let Dex go. He just acknowledged that he hates Dex for all the lives he's taken. Why in the actual fuck would he let him go for Dex to potentially take more? Dex literally tells him to his face that he can't make any promises.
You know I can't make any promises, right?
He could not even carry out that good deed at all, and instead try to assassinate Fisk, since Matt took no precautions to make sure Dex does what he's asking him to.
Wondered why they brought me to the 15th.
Hey, you know, Chief of Detective gets to pull a few strings.
Yeah, hotshot, huh?
How and why is Brett able to pull these strings in the first place? You're seriously telling me Fisk, the mayor of the fucking city, can't choose which precinct she goes to? The decider is the chief? Why didn't Fisk at all question why he was getting her moved? Why did he not interfere since this is obviously sketchy? Why is Brett even allowed in the building when keeping Karen contained would be a top priority? Could it be that he's an idiot? Matt and Karen start talking, which only makes me question where the security is since there are only two scenarios. Scenario A, Matt quickly took out the guards in order to have this chat, which wouldn't make much sense considering he then wouldn't need Brett to go and release her. He could just do it himself. Or scenario B, which seems to be the one the show is going for, which is that Brett was able to organize this to happen legally, which only kicks the can down the road to why Fisk would allow this to take place. If the whole reason he's keeping Karen alive is to lure Matt, where the fuck is the mountain of task force ready to ambush him?
I don't know what this is, but it feels like an opportunity. I think I have to stay. I have to face him in court. So the clear implication with this scene is that Karen thinks this will help them take down Fisk. That's why she words it as an opportunity. So why exactly is this now what she wants? It's not like literally last episode had her encouraging Matt to kill Fisk and attempting to put a bullet in Dex's brain. She literally acknowledged how keeping them alive makes more people die. So what the fuck is this stupid scene? Again, there was literally nothing to influence this change.
Just a matter of picking our strongest charges.
Charge her on all of them.
You fucking idiot. Luring Daredevil to the precinct didn't work. Kill her already. Matt then shows up to the courtroom, which causes three major issues. Firstly, why didn't anyone in this room get Matt kicked off the case due to the obvious conflict of interest? Not only is Karen known to be one of his friends, but he was dating Heather, who's also on this case. Not to mention, Fisk can literally reveal that Matt is Daredevil, which would be a bulletproof way to get him thrown out. Fisk and the prosecutors have so many methods to stop this from happening, but they all choose not to for no reason.
I got these in a firefight with Daredevil and Frank Castle.
At Mr. Murdoch's apartment.
Yes.
Why were you there?
We were performing a welfare check.
Welfare check? With assault rifles and MRAP personnel carriers?
Many things to break down here. For starters, Fisk would make sure his task force has detailed answers to these obvious questions to make sure he has a better chance at winning the case. And as for why this lie is so stupid, why in the actual fuck would the anti-vigilante task force be performing welfare checks? That's a job for local law enforcement, not task force. Christian is also an idiot for not going after the obvious cases of them being corrupt in public. They've been shown
known to constantly do this throughout the show, so it makes it even more stupid that this wouldn't be a point of interest. When the hearing is over and the cameras are off, Fisk then decides to try and kill Matt again. However, there's one major problem with this. This only makes him look way more suspicious if right after the hearing was over, one of the lawyers got assassinated. One that he has a personal history with. The time to do that was before he showed up. You know, when he was a missing man and there was nothing to tie his death to you. One of the vehicles drives by and shoots this one guy in the head, which we can clearly see came from the side of them. But for some reason, the task force decides to drive back around instead of aiming out the window and shooting Matt in the head. Then the guy who was sent to strangle the governor was supposedly killed by Dex. What a surprise. Dex didn't spare his life. Almost like you shouldn't have let him go, Matt.
I mean, what kind of person kills their own brother?
The show is now going to pretend as if this was a known thing. If this was on file the entire time, how was Karen not arrested and put away before Season 1 even started? Season 3, Episode 10 of the Netflix show made it clear that this was covered up by her father.
You weren't there.
What?
Bernie's gonna say it was just Kevin in the car.
But
he's gonna omit certain other details. You'd go to prison.
After a lifetime of, I don't know, being used as a puppet by all these men.
please, look, I get it. I'm so sorry. Don't pity me. Too late.
What kind of cartoonish character does this? This is supposed to be a therapist who has a history with helping mentally ill or troubled people. Why is she hitting someone on the basis that they're trying to sympathize with her? All she knows about Karen is Matt supports her and is friends with her. Yes, I know what the show is going for is that Heather is becoming more and more unstable, but the buildup is so shit that she doesn't even feel like a real person. Again, she feels cartoonishly evil. Now I think it's the time where I finally talk about Daniel and BB's relationship, since I've been holding off on it in order to give it its own category. But I think now is appropriate considering this is the episode where they kill Daniel off.
No, I don't want to die.
Which is especially funny since people were saying he's reached Ray Nadeem levels of character and redemption, and the arc BB goes on is absolute shit. The show is clearly trying to go for the idea that she's changing by prioritizing her friend over exposing Fisk, but the fact that the catalyst for this change is seeing his fucking bedroom is so silly that I can't take it seriously. It's so obviously shitty to leak information when that puts Daniel at risk. Why would looking at his bedroom be the turning point for her character? What even makes her hesitate in sending the message, which is what leads her to enter his room in the first place? BB also for some reason brought the next broadcast with her, when this could easily be discovered by Daniel. And the last time we see Daniel in episode 6, it's nighttime. Then in episode 7, when we cut back to them, it's bright as day outside. Why didn't Buck show up to where Daniel said he'd be if he wasn't returning his calls? A number of things could have went wrong and he didn't do anything for hours. Daniel then shows up to Buck at the end of the episode, which confuses the fuck out of me considering he should have known there'd be a consequence to not bringing BB with him, like he highlighted earlier. And there was no actual benefit to confronting Buck, so he could have just gone with BB. The catalyst for Daniel changing is literally just that someone he cared about was gonna get hurt, which makes the change feel much more selfish than something I should be happy about. This isn't meaningful or a sign of self-sacrifice. He was literally okay with burying a dead body just 2 episodes ago. This isn't anything like Nadeem. Nadeem took up Fisk's job under the impression that it would be a positive on both sides. Not only would Fisk be feeding them information to help save lives, Nadeem would also be able to provide financial support for his family. It's only when the bulletin fight happens and he starts investigating Dex that he starts to consider that Fisk is playing him. That's why he goes to tell this to the people he's working with. The reason he didn't get anywhere with it, if you remember, is because Hatley framed him for murder to hold as leverage, and he obviously can't help from inside prison. He even helped Karen escape Dex in the church, and went out with one of the most courageous sacrifices in superhero media. So to try and compare him to Daniel and act like they are at all the same is straight up disingenuous to how well written Nadeem was. Anyway, back to Born Again. Daniel confronts Buck, and we get this hilarious scene where he decides to waste time punching Daniel instead of just aiming a gun at him immediately. He also went out of his way to take off his gloves before shooting him. Don't know why the fuck you decided to leave your fingerprints on the weapon, but okay. That covers most of what's worth talking about regarding Daniel and BB. So let's move on to the finale. It begins with Matt and Jessica, who is patching him up since he got shot in the leg last episode, which is pretty confusing, considering he was obviously injured, which would make the task force catching him much easier. So how exactly did he avoid them long enough to get Jessica's help? He arrives at the courtroom late, and for some reason decides not to mention that the task force tried to kill him in the parking garage. He doesn't even mention that the bullets would match the guns of the task force agents. He doesn't mention that there would be cameras and try to get the footage, and he doesn't put Karen or Kirsten on the stand to testify this fact. And literally, what is the point of framing Dex as Matt's killer? All you have to do is have it be a random guy. In fact, it's more suspicious that Dex, the guy who publicly tried to assassinate Fisk multiple times, succeeding in killing his wife, would take a shot at a random lawyer who's arguing to have Fisk be put away. Dex shows up to where the agents are despite the fact he'd have no way of knowing they'd be here, and kills them in order to take the fake Bullseye's place. Jessica shows up to the courtroom and is for some reason allowed in this case. Don't freak out. It's not like the Netflix shows made it a point that this isn't allowed or anything.
I've been placed on leave, effective tomorrow.
That's bullshit.
Bodies were piling up. Serial killer kept slipping through the cracks. Department needed a fall guy. The press accused us of colluding with powered vigilantes. I'd fit the bill.
So the fact that she's even able to be here already doesn't work, which will bleed into the next problem. Matt revealing he's Daredevil not only wouldn't help him win this case, but his character assassination. First of all, Matt knows that this would put everyone he interacts with at risk. This means Karen, Maggie, Kirsten, Josie, and any other person he's been relatively close with would have a target on their back. And since this could end up getting him arrested, he cannot protect them from something happening, which is also bad since Matt would never even risk getting arrested or let himself be. But we'll get to that when we get to that. As for the second reason, well, it's the one I just went over. Matt has an obvious conflict of interest in the case. Not only is he close friends with Karen, he just admitted to being an accomplice to her crimes and being a vigilante. This would immediately get him thrown off the case. Not only this, but Matt revealing his identity wouldn't even prove anything since it's still just hearsay. The Netflix show made it a point that hearsay isn't effective. The reason the Nadeem video even worked so well was because it was exempt from that rule.
Maybe it won't hold up in court, but if we put this out there, it'll make Fisk's life a living hell.
Actually, a dying declaration is exempt from the hearsay rule.
So how he somehow wins is beyond me. And even if we want to operate on the broken logic this show is presented to us, why didn't they have Jessica testify instead? She was at the warehouse and her identity is public, so she doesn't have the same restraints Matt does. Also, this has been a lingering question since episode 1, but why exactly did Fisk need to smuggle weapons in the first place? This is the inciting incident for the entire season, and there's no good explanation for it.
From the word of a deluded lawyer, none of it will stand up.
Oh, then there's attempted murder against a government official. Your assassin lived. He has a lot to say.
So not only did he conveniently survive since Dex, the guy that's whole personality is killing people, didn't finish him off, but Matt also didn't use this in the case against Fisk. He could have had him testify that Fisk hired him to take out the governor, and he would know about this considering he was the one to send Dex to stop it from happening, meaning he didn't even have to reveal himself as Daredevil to get Fisk arrested. Matt and Fisk are about to leave the building, and Dex stops to talk.
Prepare to take the shot.
Sorry, pal. Wrong bullseye.
Sir, it's a trap!
No, wait, you don't want to do that!
He conveniently decided to give this guy a heads up, despite not saying a word on his other attempts to kill Fisk. Well, he's crazy, you see. That's why he's an idiot and has no basic knowledge on when to shut the fuck up and complete his one good deed. I guess it is consistent with his past stupidity of not taking the best opportunities. Nor did he try to take a second shot upon the first one missing. He also decided not to aim for the head for some reason. Oh hey, that's exactly like what he did with Foggy in episode 1. At least they're consistently making him a dumbass.
Jesus Christ. He's asking for a war.
Where are all the vigilantes that operate in New York and would have interest in dealing with Fisk? Holy shit, man, how many times am I gonna have to ask this question?
We are under siege by the task force, by the people who kill our family, our friends, and lock us up. It's our city, not his. It's time to take it back.
This is definitely a believable change. I definitely believe you when you imply the city changes because of Fisk's wrongdoing. You see the problem with making Fisk the street-tier god that can't be held by a prison and always regains the public support? It makes moments like these artificial as fuck. I no longer believe you when you show me the city rallying against him.
Shoot him.
Whoa, whoa.
Tell him about Hector Ayala.
Hector Ayala was a fucking cop killer. I said shoot that
No,
bastard.
my husband wouldn't kill police.
You told me Ayala pushing him off the platform.
This is not a real show. All that it took to make you question the integrity of his claims was his own wife saying that isn't something he'd do. You know, someone that could possibly have a bias towards them considering their family. You believed the task force for this long despite how corrupt they were in the public eye. You believed the task force for this long despite the fact that Hector won the trial and was deemed innocent because of his righteous acts as a vigilante. Why the fuck did none of the other task force do anything? Aren't they also supposed to be corrupt? Why the fuck did you guys bring Angela here? You all knew Fisk was inciting a war and you brought a child anyway? Are your brains filled with cement?
Renounce your citizenship, go into exile, and the AG promises not to prosecute.
Why are the AG giving him a way out at all? Deals like this are usually made in situations where there are mutual benefits. You know, like in Daredevil Season 3 when the FBI promised Fisk that they wouldn't charge Vanessa as an accessory as long as he gave information that they could act on, like the Albanians. What exactly is the benefit to letting Fisk walk free and potentially hurt more people?
Yeah, that's definitely a case of me just not knowing what to do with the script.
It's over for both of us. Take the deal.
Matt Murdock, the guy that refuses to kill and was dead set on getting Fisk locked up in Season 3, who now has an opportunity to do just that, is encouraging Fisk to take the route that allows him to run free and inevitably resume crime. What the fuck was the point of sacrificing your secret identity if you weren't even planning on getting him put away for good? Are you trying to make your decision from earlier seem even dumber?
You go to prison, you die locked away from her memory. Or you do what you do and this whole thing starts over again. The poison. The fight. Death. I believe you love this city same as me. We have the opportunity to give it peace. Even if we have none.
Why on Urath would this convince Fisk? Not only did Matt try this in episode 6, which didn't work, if all it took was loss to change Fisk's mind, he would have stopped his crime empire after James Wesley died in Season 1. Fisk doesn't blame his criminal empire or his life choices. He blames the people who directly committed acts that would harm him. When Matt went after Vanessa in Season 2, he didn't consider if it was his fault that she was in that position. He only blamed Matt for making that threat. That is who Fisk is. He doesn't take accountability. And for those of you that want to argue prison can't hold him, not only does that not work on a thematic level, you've now removed all incentive for him to take the deal to leave New York, because by your logic, he can just escape again. And no, he doesn't fucking love New York. He blatantly states the opposite in the Season 1 finale.
This city doesn't deserve a better tomorrow! It deserves to drown! And it smells! It deserves people like my father!
People like you!
We cut to Karen and Matt talking at a diner before the police show up to arrest him, and holy shit, this breaks everything. For starters, I thought he wasn't gonna get arrested for this. If they're arresting him just for being a vigilante, why didn't they do that earlier when he confessed to being Daredevil in the courtroom? Why did they give Fisk a deal to leave the city but not to Matt? Fisk literally murdered people in front of a crowd of witnesses and gets to leave scot-free, but Matt doesn't? What's even worse is the fact that Matt lets this happen. Not only have you let Fisk go, but you've left the city with less protection since you can't operate as Daredevil anymore. This is even worse when you remember that the Punisher and Dex are still out there, and he's just left the city to defend itself. Don't bring up Spider-Man because he didn't do a thing when Fisk incited a war against the city, nor can he be everywhere. This is just as broken as Barry letting himself get arrested in The Flash Season 4. And why exactly is Karen okay with this when she would know Dex is still out there and potentially killing innocents? Where even was the resolution to her and Matt's conflict about killing? What was the influence for her to understand Matt was right and that killing isn't the right thing to do? There you are. What the fuck were you doing when Fisk initiated a war on the city? You tried to shoot him but didn't care to finish the job when he escaped? And his face would be all over the news due to his crimes. Why was he not recognized before boarding? That's so thematically deep, right guys? Fisk is in a mental prison while Matt is in a physical one. That's what we call absolute cinema. Matt totally isn't out of character for letting Fisk potentially build back his empire and kill people. Let the drug dealer die in prison, but God forbid I apprehend the mob boss that attempted to kill my friends on multiple occasions. Like I said, fuck this show. It deserves to get made fun of. If you still think this show is good writing that doesn't completely disrespect any nuance these characters once had, I don't know what to tell you. Don't ask me about the show in the future, since I'm not subjecting myself to another season. If you want early access to my content, my Patreon included rough drafts of this video up until its release, which I will be continuing in the future. This video was an absolute chore to make, so don't expect more videos of this length anytime soon. Big thanks to Just a Guy for his cameo, SK for helping with some references to substantiate points, and to EXO Pokery for reading the hilarious HiTop Films tweet. Their channels will be linked in the description. Anyway, back to sleep until there's a new piece of media to make fun of.